Impossible investigators, ready to open another dead case? Today we're diving into one of the oldest and most unsettling enigmas in American history. A mystery that has endured for over 400 years and continues to defy all logical explanations. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony. Imagine an entire community of men, women, and children simply evaporating from the face of the earth, leaving behind only one mysterious word and a trail of unanswered questions. This is the story of the lost colony, a tale of ambition, hope, and an unnerving silence that echoes through the centuries. Get ready, because Roanoke isn't just a story of disappearance. It's a grim reminder of the fragility of human existence in the face of the unknown. To understand the Roanoke mystery, we need to go back in time, to the late 16th century. Europe was buzzing with activity. Powers like Spain and Portugal had already established vast and lucrative empires in the New World, exploiting its riches and expanding their influence. England, under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, was eager not to be left behind. There was a growing fervor to establish their own colonies in North America, not just to find gold and silver, but also to create strategic bases against Spain and, crucially, to claim land for the expanding British Empire. The idea of a permanent colony in America was bold and fraught with risks. Voyages were long and dangerous, the lands unknown, and the native inhabitants a force to be reckoned with. Nevertheless, the promise of new wealth, religious freedom, and the glory of expanding the empire were powerful incentives. Into this scenario steps a central figure in our story, Sir Walter Raleigh. An explorer, writer, poet, courtier, and favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, Raleigh was a man of vast ambition and vision. He dreamed of establishing a permanent English colony in North America, an outpost that would not only bring wealth, but also serve as a beacon for English presence in the New World. In 1584, Raleigh obtained the royal charter from Queen Elizabeth I, granting him the right to explore and colonize lands in North America. The area he chose, on the coast of what is now North Carolina, was named Virginia in honor of the Virgin Queen. Colonizing America was no easy task, and Raleigh's initial attempts were marked by difficulties and failures. Raleigh's first reconnaissance expedition in 1584 was led by Captains Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow. They explored the coast of Virginia, including Roanoke Island, and returned to England with enthusiastic reports about the beauty of the land and the apparent friendliness of the natives. They even brought back two Native Americans, Montejo and Wanchese, who learned English and provided valuable information about the region. These positive reports fueled hope and excitement in England, paving the way for a more ambitious colonization attempt. In 1585, the first attempt to establish a permanent colony was made. Sir Richard Grenville led a fleet of 7 ships carrying about 100 colonists, mainly soldiers and scientists, to Roanoke. The governor of this colony was Ralph Lane, an experienced soldier. The intention was to establish a military and exploratory base. However, the 1585 colony faced a series of problems from the outset. Relations with the Native Americans quickly deteriorated due to mistrust and violent incidents, such as the burning of a native village in retaliation for the theft of a silver cup. The colonists also struggled with food supplies and a lack of farming experience. They relied heavily on the natives for food, which became a source of friction. Tension mounted, and in 1586, when Sir Francis Drake, a famous English privateer, appeared off the coast of Roanoke after a successful campaign against the Spanish, the disheartened colonists, low on supplies, seized the opportunity to return to England with him. The first Roanoke colony was abandoned, a testament to the harsh realities of life in the New World. This initial attempt, though a failure, provided crucial lessons. It became clear that a successful colony would need more than just soldiers. It would need families, people willing to settle and cultivate the land, and, critically, it would need a more stable relationship with the native peoples. Despite the setbacks, Sir Walter Raleigh didn't give up on his dream. He learned from the mistakes of the first attempt and planned a new expedition, this time with a different focus, to establish a self-sufficient agricultural colony comprised of families. In 1787, the second colonization attempt set sail from England. This expedition was different. These weren't soldiers seeking gold, but rather colonists, including women and children, seeking a new life. Around 115 people embarked on 3 ships, intending to found the city of Raleigh in Chesapeake Bay, further north of Roanoke, which was considered a more suitable location for a permanent settlement. The governor of this new colony was John White, a talented artist and cartographer who had participated in the 1585 expedition and had made beautiful illustrations of Native American life and local flora and fauna. White was a family man. His daughter Eleanor Dare and her husband Ananias Dare were among the colonists, and, movingly, Eleanor was pregnant. On August 18th, just a month after their arrival, Eleanor gave birth to a baby girl, Virginia Dare, who became the first English child born in the Americas. This event was a symbol of hope and a new beginning for the colony. However, fate had other plans. The ships, under the command of Simon Fernandez, a man known for his stubbornness and lack of cooperation, did not take the colonists to Chesapeake Bay. Instead, they forced them to disembark on Roanoke Island, claiming it was too late in the season to continue the journey. The colonists found the remnants of the fort from the 1585 expedition, but there was no sign of the 15 men Grenville had left behind to guard the site. Initial hope was quickly replaced by a sense of apprehension. Life on Roanoke was hard. Supplies were limited, and relations with the Native Americans, though initially more cautious, soon became tense. The colonists tried to make contact with local tribes, but isolated attacks and mutual distrust made peaceful coexistence difficult. The need for more supplies and growing concerns for the colony's safety led the colonists to make a crucial decision.
With dwindling supplies and the urgent need for tools, food, and more colonists, the inhabitants of Roanoke pleaded with John White to return to England for help. White, reluctant to leave his daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, but understanding the gravity of the situation, agreed to depart. He left clear instructions for the colonists. If they decided to move to another location, they should carve the name of their new settlement on a tree post. If the move was forced by danger, they should carve a cross above the name. On August 27, 1587, just 1 month after the colony's arrival, John White boarded one of the ships and set sail for England, promising to return as quickly as possible. He didn't know this would be the last time he would see his family and the colony. White's return to England was relatively swift, but his return to Roanoke would be delayed by larger events unfolding in Europe. England was on the brink of war with Spain. In 1588, the mighty Spanish Armada, a vast fleet of warships, was launched by Philip II of Spain with the goal of invading England and overthrowing Queen Elizabeth I. This monumental event consumed all of England's naval resources. Every available ship was requisitioned for the defense of the homeland, and no vessel could be spared for a supply voyage to the distant Roanoke colony. John White desperately tried to charter a ship, but to no avail. The war against Spain had absolute priority. The Spanish Armada was finally defeated in a series of naval battles, a triumph for England, but a tragedy for the Roanoke colonists, who were isolated and without news. The years dragged on. White finally managed to charter 2 small ships in 1588, but they were attacked by French privateers and forced to return to England, losing their supplies and further delaying the rescue mission. It was only in 1590, 3 long years after his departure, that John White finally managed to organize a new expedition to Roanoke. White's anxiety was palpable. What would he find? On August 18, 1590, on the 3rd birthday of his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, John White and his crew finally sighted Roanoke Island. Emotion and apprehension mingled. They fired a cannon and sounded trumpets, hoping for a response, a sign of life. But the silence that followed was deafening. As they approached the shore, the crew noticed something strange. There was no smoke rising from chimneys, no boats in the cove, no signs of human life. The fort they had built was intact but deserted. Upon disembarking, the scene they encountered was of complete abandonment. The houses were dismantled, not as if they had been attacked, but as if they had been carefully taken apart. There were trees growing inside what were once dwellings. There were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no traces of blood. The colony had simply vanished. The only clue John White found were two words carved in different locations. On a post of the palisade that surrounded the colony, the word Croatoan was clearly carved, and on a nearby tree, the letters Crow were found. White remembered his instructions. If they moved, they should leave the name of the new location, and if the move was forced by danger, a cross would be carved. There was no cross. This suggested the departure had been planned, not the result of an attack. The word Croatoan referred to a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and the Native American tribe that lived there, the Croatoan. This indicated that the colonists might have moved there. White and his crew tried to sail to Croatoan Island to investigate, but a series of severe storms and the loss of anchors and supplies forced them to abandon the search. They were compelled to return to England, leaving behind the mystery of Roanoke. John White was never able to return to America, and the fate of his daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, and all the other colonists remained unknown. In the years and decades that followed, several expeditions were sent to the New World, some with the hope of finding the lost colony. However, none of them managed to unravel the mystery. The vastness of the land, the difficulty of communication, and the complex relationships with Native American tribes made the search almost impossible. The Jamestown colonists, who arrived in 1607, heard reports from natives about the Roanoke colonists. Some told stories that the colonists had mingled with friendly tribes, while others spoke of massacres. Captain John Smith, one of Jamestown's leaders, sent expeditions to search for survivors, but without success. The lack of physical evidence, no bodies, no tools, no weapons, no trace of a struggle, is what makes Roanoke's disappearance so enigmatic. It's as if 115 people simply dissolved into thin air. The absence of a cross above the word Croatoan is a crucial point. If there had been an attack, if they had been massacred, John White expected to see the danger sign, but there wasn't. This suggests a voluntary departure, but to where and why? Didn't they leave more information? What led them to abandon a settlement they had built? The mystery of Roanoke became a legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of colonization and the unpredictability of the New World. With each new generation, the enigma is revisited. New theories are proposed, but the truth continues to elude us.
With the absence of concrete answers, theories about what happened to the lost colony have multiplied over the centuries, ranging from the plausible to the purely speculative. Hypothesis 1. Assimilation with Native American tribes, the most accepted theory. This is the most widespread theory, and for many historians, the most probable. The idea is that the colonists, facing dwindling supplies and a lack of aid from England, sought refuge and assistance from friendly Native American tribes. The word Croatoan carved on the post points directly to Croatoan Island, today known as Hatteras Island, and the Croatan tribe, with whom the English had had relations, though sometimes tense. It's believed that the colonists might have integrated into this tribe, intermarrying with its members and adopting their customs to survive. There are later accounts from Jamestown colonists and other explorers of Native Americans with European features, light hair, blue eyes, and of tribes that supposedly possessed English artifacts or spoke some English words. For example, the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina has an oral legend that they are descendants of the Roanoke colonists and Native Americans. This theory offers an explanation for the absence of bodies and signs of struggle, suggesting that the departure was a peaceful migration, or at least an attempt at survival through integration. Hypothesis 2. Massacre by hostile Native American tribes. Although the absence of the cross negates an immediate attack, some historians suggest that the colonists might have been attacked and massacred by a hostile Native American tribe, perhaps the Powhatan, who were known for their belligerence and who would later become a problem for the Jamestown colony. The Powhatan might have seen the colonists as a growing threat to their land and resources. If a massacre occurred, the absence of bodies could be explained by the natives taking the bodies or burying them in a way that left no traces. However, the lack of any battle signs at the Roanoke fort itself makes this theory less likely for the time of the disappearance, although a later attack after they moved cannot be entirely ruled out. Hypothesis 3. Natural disaster, starvation, or disease. Life in the 16th century was brutal, and colonists were vulnerable to a host of natural threats. A prolonged drought, a plague of disease, or a food shortage could have decimated the colony. If most of the colonists died from disease or starvation, the few survivors might have dispersed or tried to seek help, only to perish in the process. The lack of farming experience and dependence on supplies from England made the colony extremely fragile. A harsh winter or a failed harvest could have led to starvation. The absence of bodies in this case could be explained by natural decomposition or the scattering of remains by wild animals. However, the apparent organization of the departure, with the carved word, suggests a more deliberate action than simple decimation. Hypothesis 4. Attempted return to England or lost at sea. A less likely but still considered theory is that the colonists, desperate due to John White's lack of aid and dwindling supplies, attempted to build their own ships or repaired an existing one to return to England. Given the naval technology of the time and the dangers of the Atlantic Ocean, such a voyage would be extremely risky. They could have been lost at sea due to storms, shipwrecks, or lack of navigation. However, building a ship large enough to carry 115 people would be a Herculean task for colonists with limited resources and no shipbuilding experience. Furthermore, there are no records of any ship from Roanoke reaching England or being sighted at sea. Hypothesis 5. Spanish intervention. Spain was a dominant colonial power at the time and viewed the English presence in North America as a direct threat to its interests. It's possible that a Spanish expedition found and destroyed the Roanoke colony, taking the colonists as prisoners or massacring them. However, there are no Spanish records confirming such an action. Although the Spanish were keen on eliminating English outposts, the absence of any claim or report of victory on their part makes this theory less probable. Hypothesis 6. Other speculative theories. Over the years, more fantastical theories have emerged, such as alien abductions, supernatural events, or even that the colonists were victims of some unknown disease that transformed them into something unrecognizable. However, these theories lack any historical or scientific basis and are more a product of popular imagination than serious investigation. In January 2017, a team of archaeologists announced the discovery of artifacts that could be linked to the lost colony, including pottery shards and tools. These discoveries, made at a site known as Site X, about 50 miles west of Roanoke, suggest that some colonists may have moved inland, perhaps seeking help from Native American tribes. However, these findings still do not provide a definitive answer about the fate of all 115 colonists. The mystery continues. The lost colony of Roanoke is more than just a historical anomaly. It's a grim reminder of the fragility of human life and the unpredictability of fate. It represents the brutal side of colonization, where hope and ambition could be crushed by the harsh reality of a new and unknown world. For historians, Roanoke is a fascinating puzzle, a challenge to our understanding of the past. For mystery enthusiasts, it's a classic case of inexplicable disappearance, an enigma that refuses to be solved. And for the families who, centuries ago, waited in vain for the return of their loved ones, the silence of Roanoke must have been the cruelest of answers. What truly happened on that remote island more than 400 years ago? Were the colonists assimilated, massacred, succumbed to disease, or simply lost in the vastness of the continent? Is the word Croatoan a clue or an epitaph? Until new evidence emerges, the mystery of Roanoke will continue to haunt history, a dead case that refuses to be closed.
If you enjoyed diving into this mystery with us, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your theory in the comments. And tell me, what's the next mystery you want us to investigate?